Hi, this is Veronica Nye, Chief Economist at the Fertilizer Institute. Thanks for joining me today. Feels like it's been a long time since we've done this. I think it's because it has been a long time since we've done this. But I'm just going to jump in to this week's market news because there's been quite a lot. On Monday, December 8th, we did get an announcement from USDA about the Farmer Bridge program. But with that came also a lot of additional dates that are of importance to growers. One of those is that by December 19th, all growers have to confirm their planted acres for the 2025 growing year. USDA also mentioned that during the week of December 22nd, growers could expect to see an announcement from USDA about crop-specific rates that would be utilized in the bridge program. And then they also made promise that by the end of February 28th to be exact, growers could expect to see those payments hitting their bank accounts. So certainly a lot of additional information about that bridge program beyond those high-level numbers that were announced, that $11 billion and the list of commodities, but some really important timelines for growers to take into consideration as they're viewing this program. On Tuesday, not to be outdone, the World Ag Supply and Demand estimates came out of USDA, where we saw very little change on the price side for most commodities. That's not very surprising. The exception was on rice and cotton. Cotton was revised down 60 cents per pound, and rice was revised down 90 cents per hundredweight. This is important and relevant really in the context of the last topic, that Farmer Bridge program, because USDA did note that they will be utilizing the WASDE as the price source information for the calculations for that program. They haven't said which WASDE, but certainly December does seem like a pretty logical point given where we are in the year. And then also yesterday, Tuesday, December 8th, USTR Jameson Greer. Also on Tuesday, December 8th, we heard some interesting testimony from U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer talking about the USMCA. As you all know, on July 1st, the U.S., Canada, and Mexico will enter into a trilateral review of the USMCA agreement. Now that's important because USTR is supposed to file a report 6 months in advance of that date with Congress, really outlining its priorities and goals and recommendations as to whether or not the U.S. continue in that agreement. That report is largely reflective of the written comments that USTR receives, including those that were filed by TFI. Beyond potash, which has been discussed in significant volume, it oftentimes gets lost that there's a lot of bilateral, trilateral trade in fertilizer products in the other macronutrients, as well as sulfur. That bilateral trade is really reflected also in the fact that 25% of U.S. nitrogen exports are to Canada. So really a lot of bilateral trade on the nitrogen side. Of course, when we look also on sulfur, which is not one of the three macros that we talk about, but often referred to as the fourth major macronutrient, we depend highly on Canada for our sulfur imports and sulfuric acid imports, which are an important ingredient to the phosphate production here in the United States, as well as other important sulfur-based fertilizers. Outside of the three major macros, sulfur is also incredibly important within the trilateral Mexico-Canada U.S. region. The U.S. gets over 60% of our elemental sulfur from the Canada and Mexico trade partners, and nearly 75% of our sulfuric acid imports from Canada and Mexico. This is important, of course, because not only is sulfur a product that is used in fertilizer in and of itself, but sulfur and sulfuric acid are incredibly important inputs into the production of phosphate. And really sort of bringing that integration home, 80% of U.S. MAP exports were destined for Canada last year. So clearly a lot of integration between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, which really allows the fertilizer industry to be as efficient as possible, which delivers the lowest price and greatest amount of availability to U.S. growers. And finally, we did get a release date for the September trade data. That new revised release date is December 11th. So a lot of interesting information out this week that will really help, I think, provide some additional market information and make some more and make decisions a bit easier for growers in the industry as well. Thanks for joining us today. We look forward to these conversations in 2026.